Left Lynchburg on Thursday, July 6, 2000, on our annual trip to Michigan. I drove 85% of the way. Joe seems to get tired very quickly now that he is a self-styled invalid. He had not driven the car since we were in Florida during the winter, so it is very rusty. We stayed at Mary's, went to the Wujek family reunion at Steve's place. He has 21 acres on Kings Road in Romulus. It rained off and on all afternoon, but we were able to manage around it. His barn is very clean as he has new concrete floor, new interior walls, windows, etc. Ate lots of forbidden food. Saw many children, all growing. We had our picture taken. Eric was there with Kay, and he had designed the family tree, which was printed on back of t-shirts that everyone got. Peggy and Phil also came, which made Joe very happy. Back to Mary's, then repacked and drove to Sutton's Bay with Mary on Monday, stopping at Burger King in Grayling to have a 2-for-1 Whoppers. Arrived at Peggy's rented house on west arm of Traverse Bay around 5 p.m. On Tuesday, Lisa and Erica came, also Alex and Mihaela with their families. Mary cooked hamburgers on the grill. Matthew and Vicky's children also, but Matthew and Vicky had to work as it is the peak season for their deli business in Sutton's Bay. On Wednesday, Sam and Nancy arrived with Margie. They had stopped in Lansing and picked her up. Also on Wednesday, Phil had rented a jet ski boat, like a motorcycle on the water, and all the children out on the deck and taking turns riding it with Peggy and Phil, Ron and Eric doing the driving. They were completely involved all day, actually 11 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. ! I began practicing with my paddleball and I got up to 32 hits at a time, but the kids didn't seem interested as they had lots of other things to do. Wednesday was also the highlight of the stay at the Sutton's Bay as it was branded Joe and Nora's 50th wedding anniversary celebration. Mary made shish kebab on the grill. We opened several bottles of champagne which Peggy had brought from Naples. Vicky's parents, Tom and Marilyn Nell, joined us at dinner. We took group picture. Vicky and Matt closed their store early for this rare occasion. Peggy had bought balloons for game of catching water balloons, etc., at which lots of fun and excitement. Sam and Nancy had their room at the gambling casino lodge. Joe went there with them in early afternoon. Mary and Joe had gone the day before. Nancy kept winning at the slots and came home about $500 richer. On Thursday, I went to the casino and lost $1 on the slot machine, but I'm no kind of gambler. Also on Thursday, the 7 oldest children put on a show imitating dancing to compact disc song recordings. Margie took video pictures, which we all watched after dinner. It was the highlight of the day. Sam and Nancy left on Friday morning. Mary and I drove to Matt and Vicky's to say goodbye to Salagi's and Seymour's as they were leaving around noon. Then we took the Walheim children with us to the state park at Northport, where we toured the lighthouse. First, we stopped at Matthew and Vicky's store, where we picked up picnic lunch they had prepared for us. The lighthouse was a very interesting museum, and we climbed to the very top and had a beautiful view of the Sea Islands and Jutting Island. It had wonderful old furniture and costumes. The last 3 mornings we were at the house, Phil became friends with a family of swans who hung around our dock in the mornings. When Phil was feeding them, they were not shy or following him, and one of them being menacing. Weather was very pleasant the whole time. On Friday evening, we went to Vicky's parents' house, which is across the peninsula near an attractive town called Leland. The house is very isolated, but sits high on a bluff and faces a large bay that opens on to Lake Michigan, where the freighters go by. The home itself is spectacular, as well as the view. The Nells are very proud of their house, and it is the dream of their retirement. Tom Nell is an excellent carpenter and has done a lot of the finishing work and the garden pathways, furniture, surrounded deck, and levels. House was with huge windows, beautiful cabinets and closets, is a showplace. Mary and I rode over to her parents with Vicky, and Peggy and Phil followed us. Matthew came later with Jack Walheim. Mr. Nell built a big fire in a pit at the side of the deck, and we all wore our jackets as it was cold and became windy and smoke started hitting us just as a little before we left. Phil and Peggy had brought champagne again from Naples, which we drank toasts. Marilyn had some nice hors d'oeuvres, and we had a pleasant conversation. Then Joe and Mary and I said goodbyes. That was after the next day. To Peggy and Phil, and headed south. We did stop and wave a quick goodbye to Matt and Vicky, who were in midst of lunchtime rush. At Mary's, by 6 p.m., unloaded the car, and then Mary and I went to Lisa's house to say goodbye to Erica and her girls, who left to return to Naples on Sunday morning. I understand Lisa was to return Sunday evening, but have not heard from anyone. Ron told sad tale of Lisa borrowing his keys on Tuesday when they left to go up to Sutton's Bay, and both she and he forgot she had his keys. He could not return leased van as he had no keys for his car and had to take Szilagyi to the airport on Sunday. Feel most sorry for Ron, as he is such a great guy, but has to deal with people who live in the house of mirth. On Wednesday, July 19th, Ben brought Alex and Mihaela over before going to work. We all had lunch, and then Mary and the girls and I went to the King's bookstore in downtown Detroit. I bought The Prize by D. Jurgen and also a book of criticism of Jane Austen's works. Mihaela bought a book of jokes and entertained us the rest of the day, off and on, by reading some of them. Mary bought a copy of the Bible. Alex couldn't make up her mind, so she didn't get a book. Back at Mary's apartment, I got busy in the kitchen and finished cooking the bean and ham soup I had started. Also made a nice large salad and hors d'oeuvres with the leftover salmon from the Auburn Cafe Monday night's dinner. Mary took the girls swimming at her pool and all got back in time to set the table. Ben got here before we sat down, so ate with us. Went to Kmart to pick up the pictures from the film roll taken at the Wujek reunion, but after waiting for 20 minutes, we were told pictures were not ready. I must mention that while we were at the Wujek reunion in July, Steve set up the slide film projector and showed hundreds of pictures of Ed and Betty and their children, including many extended family gatherings in which Joe, Eric, Peggy, and I appear. This past Thursday, July 20th, 2000, we decided to drive to Rochester Hills and visit Joe's sister, Helen. First, Mary went to Ben's and picked up Alex and Mihaela. Ben had gone with Karen to her doctor's appointment, and the girls were barely awake, but all returned to Mary's by 10:15 a.m., and we, Joe, Mary, Alex, Mihaela, and me, piled into our car, and off we went. The distance between Mary's and Helen's is about 45 miles, right through the heaviest traffic in Detroit. We were a good 3/4 of the way when the engine gave out, and Mary, as the driver, coasted to the shoulder of I-75 just a fraction of a mile before we reached Rochester Road. The first driver, who stopped to help us, had a car phone, so called AAA for a tow truck. Then began long wait for the tow truck. We put big Naples towel on the grass, and Alex, Mihaela, and I sat down a while. Joe rested in the car, and Mary kept busy telling drivers who stopped to help that we were waiting for our rescuers. State police also came by and rephoned the tow station. It was nearly 2 hours before we got to the gas station, and we had to wait for their mechanic to return from a call. Then when he saw the car, he said he could not fix it, so he had the car towed to Chrysler dealer in Rochester Hills. In the meantime, out of desperation, I called Helen to come pick us up. Gladly, she came and took us all to her house. I tried to call Sam, but he was not home. Helen called Stan Jr., who had no solution, but was willing to drive us back to Taylor. Finally, I got Sam, and he came to pick us up. Actually, I wanted to get a rental car, but none were available. Stan Jr. tried to get one on his computer internet system, but managed only to come up with one phone number after having me wait on the phone for 20 minutes. After that call, I contacted 3 agencies, but no cars, only pickup trucks available. I used the Yellow Pages, and it took only 2 minutes. The Chrysler dealer said that it would be next day or Monday before they'd have the car ready, and they called Friday morning to say the problem was broken timing belt and not the motor, which is what they had hinted at. Sam said he didn't think it could be the motor, as it would have made obvious noise and there would be smoke. Also, it could have cost much more. Some said up to $3,000. How awful. As it was, it cost $700, including the tune-up and the spark plugs, which the car needed. Mary drove me over yesterday, and I followed her back on surface roads, which she does not like to drive. If we had taken the expressways, time would be 1 hour. On surface roads, it was 1.5. So glad that ordeal is over. Bought a bottle of Kahlua for Sam and a tank of gas for Mary. How am I to repay Helen for her hospitality and effort? She opened her house and kitchen to us and kept Alex and Mihaela in food and drink the whole time, as well as a send-off of snacks, candies, ice cream, soda pop, etc.